Hello, I'm Alison Hargreaves from guidesforbrides.co.uk and really pleased that joining us live this evening we have designer Sassi Holford, and I think most people will already have heard of Sassi. A lot of you will be familiar with her design. She's based down in Taunton, boutiques Taunton, London, plus loads of stockists across the UK and internationally. So first of all, welcome Sassi. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening.
Hi, really glad to be joining you.
So we were really keen, I think, first of all, to just explain why it is that usually brides would start thinking about their dress perhaps slightly later in the planning process. Perhaps January has been a really key time in the past for shopping for wedding dresses. So why this year, or in any other year, would you say actually slightly earlier on, a little bit more of a lead time is a really good idea if you're buying from a designer?
So actually, I've probably found over the last few years that the brides are, with social media, much more aware of when new collections are being dropped, new styles are arriving. And that is normally from October, November time, ready for what was traditionally the peak season, January onwards. But actually, the last couple of years, the season has been coming from October. And I think that's because there's a bit more time for planning, and the brides are so much more aware of what they're looking for, and their lookbooks, and they're putting together their Pinterest boards, and they're excited. Of course, they're excited to explore that as soon as possible.
I think, and what about from the point of view of in the COVID context this year? Obviously, we're looking at everything happening, taking longer, being quicker. Sort of, are the designers sitting around doing nothing at home?
Well, not if only. I would actually not like that. But so this year, like with everything, it's unprecedented. And as we were chatting previously before we went live, I've been in this business for 39 and a half years, celebrating 40 next year. I have never ever had to deal with anything like this in my whole career. So, first thing we did was the wedding industry is it's like a kind of overgrown family. So, you connected with people, your stores, designers that are friends. And so we all sort of grouped together because you needed to make, just to kind of stabilize what was going on. But so we've got two types of bride at the moment. We've got one that's been really organized, that is knowing that if there's a local lockdown and they can't get out again in November and December, if they're getting married in spring, they need to really make the best of this opportunity. And they really do. And then the other brides that are sitting back and thinking, well, I don't know what's going to happen. And so I'll just see. And I think in a way, then as long as that type of bride is happy to make any of the compromises that may need to be done with that late decision making, that's kind of fine too. But your choice and availability will just shrink down, because we are, as an industry, quite unique in this whole COVID situation, that these events are all planned 1-2 years in advance. So we've got nearly a year's brides now, sort of into next year and the year after. And of course, that's not going to mean no one else is going to get married. So it's about being really organised and a bit more planning. And I think anytime you plan something, you open your options.
Yeah, yes. And are you sensing that brides who are planning for 2020 weddings have already got their dresses sorted, or do you think those that were only planning for sort of September, October have actually postponed that whole process to next year? So there's possibly going to be a greater demand, or has it been a little bit more spread? Because I know with venues and photographers and all of those on the day, what their concern is there's going to be a big over demand next year. Does the same apply, or has it been a little more spread out?
Well, there may be more demand, but like with anything, with a venue, you can only put one wedding in it. You know, when you hand make bespoke wedding dresses, I can't magic up 20 more staff to make more dresses. There is a time when you just say, you know, we're fully booked. This, and we are making what we can make. We're not just going to take more orders and rush orders through.
Yeah,
you're not going to make beautiful products, you know. So it's really important to know that you know, what's available is there, and once we're fully booked, the brides that are coming in, I am loving their optimism. So I'm seeing clearly we're seeing the optimistic brides now. They're going to go, it's going to be fine by next spring. You know, my dress is going to be amazing, and they're planning. But they kind of have the advantage on this year's brides that they are, and if I have to delay it, then so be it. Yeah. So their headspace is completely different to I mean, I feel passionate about the brides that have either are getting married in the beginning of April. It's like having a rug pulled out from under your feet. I know. You know, they plan for up to 2 years. You know, one of the most amazing events of their life, and this happens. I mean, nobody could have predicted it. And so they kind of had to get their head around it. And every time they've had a wedding day, we know that some of them, and most of them, actually gone and done something very special that weekend by themselves to celebrate what would have been their wedding day. And I've started seeing the brides for fittings because they postponed to spring next year or summer next year. And we started doing the 12 fittings and restarting, and they're just sort of they're just sort of loving the fact that they're now getting that vibe and the excitement again. And they said, oh, you know, I was getting down and now I'm perked up. There's an awful lot of optimism out there. What I don't know is how many brides are not being so optimistic and sort of hunkering down and waiting to see what happens. That's what we don't know.
Yeah, and that would be devastating for them if they then are then getting ready for it at last and find it's too late to get the dress. I mean, when you've waited for so long, to then find you're too late for something is going to be incredibly hard. And of the brides that have postponed, who had already sorted their dress, are you finding any of them are then wearing that dress for their sort of quick Zoom wedding or whatever they're doing on the day, and then ordering something else for their bigger reception? I guess it's going to be more so now we've got these small intimate ceremonies that they might wear their dress then and then go, do you know what, I'm going to have something that's going to be a bit of a wild party statement for my second wedding.
I think with all the brides that have postponed, and we are I mean, me as a company alone, we are in the hundreds. I mean, it's been a huge logistical exercise. The changes that they're doing are unique as their weddings and as unique as them. So we've had every connotation. We've had, can you change the skirt? Can you do this? Can you turn it into winter? I'll wear it as it is, and then I will wear it next year. We've had one bride that was getting married one way for legals, and then next year she's having a party. She's seen one of my new dresses and said, can we drop that fabric as an overlay over the top, because it's a complete transformation. And then we've had ones that had 2 dresses. You know, like I said, there isn't one set rule. I think you have to work out what as a bride, I think you need to work out what you want from it. And then talk to the stockist. If you've already bought your dress, they will in turn speak to us. And of course, if it can be done, you know, that's the advantage, I think, of being made in England, each dress being made individually. That does give us that little bit more flexibility. We're not manufacturing, 50 dresses all the same hanging on a rack, so it's not like, well, it's done, it's going. But there has to be understanding that if the dress has been made, there's less we can do.
Yeah. And what are the limitations for somebody that has bought perhaps not from a British designer, so it's going to be a little bit harder for them to go back and get alterations, and they're changing from a summer wedding to it's now going to be perhaps October 2021, November, they're wanting a little bit more cover, or a summer wedding where they were relying on being indoors, but they now think they're going to be outdoors and it's going to be a little bit chillier. Is there anything they can do, or is it just a matter of sort of adding on a throw or a cape or something else?
I think that there's loads of options. I think it's easier to go from where you thought you were having a summer wedding to an autumnal or an early spring wedding, because it is easier to add another layer. And within the industry, there's so many accessories that they can make it fun, they can make it more traditional. You know, there's so much that can be done, and right through to a pashmina, because you know you had a summer dress. What we've tend to have done is we've put on some, we've done like a new crepe top that goes over the top of the original quite strappy dress, and the strappy dress becomes the party dress.
Got you.
Perfect. We've done. You know, I'd have to sit down and write down all the options and all the sort of little tweaks we've done, but they're tweaks, you know, so they're not. You know, I haven't had any bride that has said, I don't want my dress. They bought the dress because they loved it and it was a reflection of their personality and how they wanted to feel on their wedding day.
So
we need to keep hold of that. You know, that was the point. That's the point we were at when they purchased the gown. And so you're tweaking. You're not actually doing a major change.
And actually, you've made a really, really good point there, that the dress is all about reflecting their personality, because one of the things people have been asking when we've been saying, do you know what, when there's nothing else you can sort at the moment, you can still sort your wedding dress, even if you can't yet decide on the venue because you're anxious about making decisions when you're not sure about dates and capacity, or you know, whatever other reason. The dress is something you can do because that's your style, rather than, you know, reflecting what the venue looks like.
And I always say, you know, you're not marrying the venue, and in the photographs, you know, there will be a corner of any space where you can have a photograph that will suit you, and you wouldn't have chosen that venue if it wasn't, again, it's a part of you that you loved about it. So, but if you had not got the venue, no, it's the dress is about you. And then, as I was saying, on the mantelpiece, you haven't got a photograph of the whole venue. You've got a photograph, almost what we're looking at here. But you know, well, probably stood up. It's about you. It's your personality. It's how you want to feel. It's what makes you feel good, and that doesn't really change.
And actually a big key on the feel good, when everything else is slightly doom and gloom at the moment, is getting out there and shopping. And we were talking about the fact that we're nervous there's going to be another lockdown that might affect retail at some point, you know, it's locally or nationally. And what then happened over the summer, where there was such demand for appointments, so hard to get into a bridal boutique anywhere. And that's very much what we're looking at the moment, isn't it? Is actually October's a good time. It's safe. It's one of the things you can do. So, and you're involved with, you go out to a lot of your stockists, as well as having your own boutique. What sort of things are you noticing the boutiques are doing to make sure brides feel really safe there?
There'll be things that are going on in the background, and there's things that will be very visual. So it's all gone to appointment only. And so it's a really controlled environment. It's not like walking around a normal shop. It's not like going to the supermarket where you don't know who else is coming in. You'll have your own zone. Your area is quite controlled, so the social distancing is great. And every store will have their own, will have done their own risk assessment, which it sounds really dull when you want to buy something beautiful like a wedding dress, but it is going on in the background. So, you know, there's some. We've done some gloves, we've done hand sanitation. My personal take on it, and it is my personal take on it, that the bride will wear a mask if we are less than 2 meters to her. We sterilise the whole area before they come in, after they've been in, and then we use separate changing rooms each time. So there's like a downtime between fitting rooms. But every store has their own things they have to address. But some of the mums are scared to come out, and it's literally, you can drive to a store, you cross the pavement, and you go in to a controlled, sanitized area with you. We've had to make changes, like you can't bring 8 friends with you, but you can't even see 8 friends at the moment, which is really pants. But you know, so there isn't 8 friends. But we've got things like this. If you want to invite, you know, if you want to involve them, I've been to stores where they've had set screens. You can invite whoever you like. Me personally, I found that was actually quite distracting for the bride, and she ended up talking to the screen rather than looking in the mirror. So we tend to do that right at the end when we've taken the consultation, got the shortlist, and then we do it. But every store will have their own way. And I think you ask them before you go there. You know, if you've got any questions, we're there to answer it. But to me, I think a bridal store, because it's appointment only, you've got your area, you've got your own changing room, and you know, it's totally controlled.
And do you think there's going to be elements that we're seeing now? I know with other parts of the wedding industry, they've said, actually, do you know what, this actually works better doing it this way. Things like the venue tours on videos and so on. Are the elements that actually are now working better in bridal? So, you know, people are doing more research online. They're not, I mean, it's awful to say wasting time, but, you know, they're working out who the right designers are and which are the right boutiques before they make appointments. And yeah,
I would say there's more research being taken place, more questions possibly being asked in the industry. And I know a lot of brides will throw their hands up going, no. We found that the brides have found the appointments more enjoyable with less guests there.
Yeah. Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Because I think you want to bring all your friends, and for years we've seen it, the numbers growing up and up and up and up. And I've done so many appointments where there's been 6 guests, and then within an hour the bride's in tears. Everyone's got an opinion all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And the bride is lost in this banter of, well, I wouldn't wear that. And as a designer, I'm standing there, I'm nearly going to implode, just saying, well, you don't have to. You know, it's not, this isn't about you. And I don't think guests do it consciously. It's very hard to be totally subjective when you are emotionally involved.
Yeah.
Bizarrely, the hardest dresses I ever designed are for my closest friends. It's, you know, because I can't just stand back and be completely objective. I'm emotionally involved in it.
Yeah.
And I mean, luckily, this is all 20 years ago. We've married a long time now, so it's fine. But you know, and so we're finding that they're bringing 2 or 3 guests in, and it's a beautiful appointment where the bride is in control of it, and yeah, they're finding their own style easier. It's a nicer appointment.
Yeah, yeah. And inspiration-wise, where are they getting that inspiration from beforehand? Because traditionally it's always been magazines, and we're guessing at the moment it's slightly less magazines. Is it from other people? Is it all online? Is it social media?
I think it's broad. So of course it's social media, because social media is huge. My own personal stores, we work, because we ask brides how they found things like that, and a lot of the good stores will have the same thing. You'll find that we work on something like 80% recommendation.
Yeah.
You know, it's huge. When you say, oh, you made my friends. Sadly, they say you made my mother's now, which is really scary. I mean, that always takes me back, because I don't feel I've been in business that long, but that has happened on more than one occasion now. So, you know, it's that recommendation, which is that assurance that you're going to get the great service. This is a relationship for up to 6 months to a year. You want to make sure that you want to work with that designer, that store, you know, that, because I always say it's part of your wedding day. This journey is part of the day. The day is a day.
Yeah.
It's the build up that just makes it so unique.
Yeah. Yeah, and my goodness, we're getting a long build up at the moment, aren't we, for a lot of these weddings?
Build ups, and then, like I say, and then down. What I'm personally really loving is there is optimism and frustration within the industry. I do think that, you know, weddings are being treated a little bit like, I just don't think the government, I don't want to get political at all, but I don't think they're getting the grasp of it's 2 years in the planning, and then to dangle a carrot and say you can have this, and then delay it, and then give it to you, and then reduce it. It's almost like, give us the roadmap, just tell us what we can do. And I know that yourselves and a lot of people in the industry are trying to say, give us the roadmap so that we can all start to just make the planning easier. Yeah, absolutely. And however hard it was being given that
6-month, don't expect anything for 6 months, it actually gives everyone something to work for. And I know that's very much the emphasis within the industry now, is to say, okay, so if we're working with this until towards the end of March, what can we do now, and what are all of the measures we can put in place now to make sure that from the very end of March we're really properly opening, and people have got something to look forward to, because I think that's what we need.
I think that's for next year's brides. The ones that have postponed, some of my brides have postponed twice.
Yeah,
they're almost like resigned to whenever. I mean, they're so chilled, like just whenever. And we've had others. I had I think the craziest one, I had one bride, she said to me, we're going to go ahead with a small ceremony at St Paul's Cathedral. I was like, so she's getting married at the chapel, like 15 people. I mean, it was so funny. It was just like, oh yeah, small wedding, cool.
yeah.
And so I've got a lot that are just going ahead because legally they wanted to be married. That's the anchor point of everything that's going on here.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get married, and they are planning a big wedding. They're doing social media bans on the first one though, because they want the second one to feel special.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the reasons a lot of people are going ahead with the wedding now is that they are wanting to get on with having a family. And that's a big consideration. And by the time it then gets to the reception, the bigger party afterwards, realistically, I know you can do quite a lot of magic with very good seamstresses, but can you sort of recreate a dress to fit that sort of changing shape of somebody that perhaps has had a baby in between wearing the dress the first time and the big reception late on in 2021? Well, what's the answer there, or is it a start again in those situations?
Okay, so I think it's from there to there. It's everything. Most things are possible, but it's whether there's going to be more expense incurred, because I would say the majority, yes, you can, but if somebody comes in and the dress doesn't do up by 5 inches, no, there's no magic in the world, even with my experience, that you can say, oh yes, I can make that, I can make that fit for you. And so you have to then plan about what you're going to do. Is it going to be another dress? Is it going to be a new bodice? If we made the original dress, can we do a new back? But there's something can be done, but it can't be done with sort of a week and a half to your next wedding.
Yeah.
We've noticed that we've already got quite a few that have rang up and said, I'm expecting. So we do know that as an industry we're expecting that there will be a few changes in shape by the time we come to refit the dress.
Yeah, that is going to just
I'll just throw my experience at it. It'll be fine.
Fantastic. So the message is very much go back to your designer. If you bought particularly from a British designer, go back to them and just let them know and plan in that time, I guess, again.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do what we can do. Sometimes it's limited what we can do, and sometimes it's broad. But as I say, just don't be afraid to ask the question.
Yeah, no, super.
Sounds cool, and then be prepared for the answer.
and again, goes back to the very, very good excuse to have the latest design. And 2021, I know you're already previewing your new collection. What sort of things are we going to be seeing in 2021?
So I had designed most of the collection pre-COVID. And then I had this beautiful lockdown time on my own in the workrooms, which was unique, has never happened. And so I designed some more dresses. And so I've done a bit of two halves. I think when we come out of this fully, I think people are just going to throw caution, and they are going to have the biggest dresses, amazing parties ever, because they felt like they deserve it. They've waited, they've been out for 2 years or 6 months. So I think it's going to be quite a statement. And there'll be people that are saying, right, I'm going to play safe, we're going to have a marquee in the garden and sort of a bit more garden party. So I've kind of gone both ways with that. Sleeves are a huge statement.
Yep.
I, for the first time ever, because I still can't believe I've done it, but I've had this real urge to make things that are a little bit sparkly and flirty this year, just a little bit more glammy. As I said, normally I pair it right back. So, but I've enjoyed that texture. So 3D, It's about being more unique. The brides today don't want to be so stamped out and set. They all want to have their own unique take on it. So as a designer, that's allowing us to be a lot more experimental. I've done dresses with bright embroidered colours on. That's been so well received. 10 years ago, you would never have done that.
And I wonder whether there's going to be a lot more in the way of really individual designs and designers taking their own routes over the next year or so, because you're not coming together twice a year in the UK and in other parts of Europe, coming together as designers, seeing what each other are doing, and inevitably taking a bit of inspiration or possibly toning your designs down to match what others are doing, because that's the norm at the moment.
I mean, I think certainly with the English designers, which I say many of which I'm friends with, we tend to launch at the same time. So there is this kind of like trepidation going, and it's amazing when you look and go, how are we thinking similar things? When it's all on your own instinct. So based in Somerset, the one thing I do enjoy is that I'm not. I will say I'm sort of down here in my own little world, always been in my own bubble, designing, making just beautiful things what I want to make. I think possibly with, dare I say, manufacturers, then you'll see possibly some of those looks coming through from that. They're almost like two different design timetables.
Yeah. So actually, this year, potentially, would that mean that the manufacturers are going to find it much harder to copy your designs because they're not going to be able to go to the trade shows and see all of the designs there? They're going to have to do a lot more work this year.
I don't think they necessarily. I'm not going to say they copy. They'll be inspired by.
Yeah. Let's do that. Inspired by.
Yeah. I would say that, and as a designer, if you're not inspiring other people, then I don't think you're not doing it. So I think that's part of what you have to take on the chin. Yeah. I actually want to sort of push forward. Some of my buyers say, but you're always 2 years in advance. To me, that's a compliment, because I don't want to, that's what you want to be doing. You want to be breaking the boundaries, not following them. So I think hopefully you're inspiring it.
No, that's
really high fashion, as high fashion does onto the high street 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. And so from the point of view of buying British at the moment, because we are, really keen to encourage brides. I mean, gosh, again, going back to lockdown, that mad panic of realizing how many of our gowns were going to be caught up in the mayhem that was happening in all of the docks and things getting stuck for months.
I mean, it was lovely to just ring our brides and say, all your fabrics are here. Yeah. So are we. Everything's safe. We're ready to go the minute you are. So that, you have that flexibility, and I mean, I could bang on about buying British for 100 reasons. It's keeping the skills here. I do apprenticeships, I do internships. I'm all about keeping those skills here, and I think we make some of the best wedding dresses in the world, because I think historically we have that history that Queen Victoria, for God's sake, invented it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's superb. And for anyone that is wanting to get their hands on one of your dresses, I know you're doing a few designer days. How do those work? What is a designer day? I think you've got one this weekend in Oxfordshire with, is it in Woodstock at Ellie Sampson's store there, or is it in
the Beaconsfield store on Saturday?
Yeah.
So it's a two-pronged approach. One is because I need, very rarely, because we're all busy all year round, is that time I can connect with the stores myself, so it's about me going into the stores, meeting the team, showing how the dresses can work, see what the reaction to the dresses are, and then I see brides and either want to see the collection as soon as possible. So I will take some of the dresses from the 2021 collection, so it's kind of jumping the queue slightly. You can get to see some different designs, and then I can also see brides that have been in before, and then I will do some little bespoke pieces that it's so much easier with me doing a one-to-one with them. So it's a really interesting and valuable day all round. You know, I come away from a designer day and I've taken as much from it as possibly the brides and the store.
Yeah, yeah. No, and as you say, that it's that chance for that proper input from the store and from brides, and
totally.
yeah.
And they can ask me questions, and the team can ask me questions, because at the end of the day, this is somebody that's representing my brand for the 12 months when I'm not there.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I want the brides that go there to have the best experience, not necessarily with me being there. So I love seeing the brides. I want to see as many as possible on Saturday. I'm sure we're booked up, but as I say, it's that whole thing that's making the experience better for the bride for the whole year.
Yeah. I think Ellie was saying just before we went live, she's got 2 slots left for Saturday. So I don't know if those have gone already, but jump on there quickly. And if anyone's wanting to contact Ellie, just pop a comment in the live. Yeah. And just on practical terms, so Hannah was asking about how to store the wedding dress. So her wedding was in March, so it's been hung up with a sheet over to protect it. What's the best way? I guess both before the wedding, for those that are picking their dresses up, and we've been encouraging brides that have got space at home to pick it up, get it home, you know, have that excitement, be able to look at it and store it at home, rather than taking up huge amounts of storage space in all of the boutiques at the moment. So before the wedding, and then also afterwards, if you're wanting to keep it for years afterwards, best way to store. Okay, so before the wedding, I would pack the inside of the dress with acid-free tissue paper, and then a sheet is good, but a cloth bag would be better, because then it's got a zip and it's closed, where a sheet would still be open. And if it's in a wardrobe or something like that, and it hasn't got full space to come out, it needs to come out every sort of 5 or 6 weeks. Just air it, move the tissue paper around, move the bag around, so it doesn't get creased in the same place for a long time, and put it back. We actually we did both. Half our brides wanted to collect, and it was a little bit contentious, but we actually had to rent another room to store all the dresses. And so we did have to do a small charge, because I'm getting my QC, head of QC, to check them every 4 weeks, take them out the bag, check they're okay, repack them, put them back, keep them heated through the winter, you know, so we're doing all of that. And it was tough going, because it's something we just couldn't absorb on top of everything else. Because, you know, every store doesn't, you know, every boutique or store doesn't have that kind of storage space. Yeah. 6 to 12 months. So if you've picked it up once you're married, please get it dry cleaned within 8 weeks, because you will not notice the stains that come out afterwards. It's deodorant, perfume, things from the day that you don't even know have got on that dress. And that's what discolors in time. Get it dry cleaned. Get it dry cleaned with a reputable dry cleaner. There is a difference. There is a huge difference. I'm sounding a bit lectury now, aren't I? Sorry. And then back to the acid-free tissue paper. And if you want to box it, you put it in the box. So you want air and no light. Okay. And that's a really important one on the cleaning, actually, because as you say, you look at it and you think it's clean, and then when you pull it out years later, you've got these lovely orange stains that just are like, oh no. Yeah. You get a stain on it at the front. I'm thinking, if you get something like a bit of red wine or some confetti that won't come out, I think, you know, that's part of your day. That was just part of the fun. It's just the way it is, you know. But I just think deodorant marks and things that aren't quite so pretty. Yeah. I agree. And what about you mentioned the storage and the cost for storage. Presumably there is a point at which that dress becomes the bride's dress. And does liability then for the dress, should the bride be insuring it from that point, or while it's with you it's still insured? Once she's picked it up, it then becomes hers? And so this was a grey area that, again, the industry had to get its head around very, very quickly, because the one thing is the dresses would have their balance paid at the wedding, at the original wedding date, so they own the garment, it's with us. So every store will be different, so I don't want to speak across the whole industry, but we took out that insurance to cover all that on top of the storage basics.
etc. But their house, and they need to, and we said to everybody, check whether it's covered with your home insurance.
Yeah, yeah, and it's these little things that you just don't think about. To say, you know, none of us have been in this situation before. Everyone was sort of having to find their way with. And
that's why it was great. Like I say, we are a great industry. As I say, there's a great network. You can pick up the phone, and you know, I've of course I've got, you know, 5 or 6 really fabulous stores that I, you know, value their opinions. We get on the phone, we work out how we're going to get through it, all for the best experience for the bride, really. It's an industry, you're in it because you love it.
Yeah, yeah. And you are always happy to speak to brides. Is that just coming into your boutique? Are you happy for them to phone you, to email you if they've got any questions?
So they'll phone through. I've got 2 fabulous man addresses in both my stores, and so they will know the answers to 90%. If there's anything they can't answer, then behind the scenes, I have meetings with them. We go through any questions. We come up with the answers together. I try and see most of my brides in my London store or my Taunton store at least once through their process.
Brilliant.
If I can, because, you know, I just love that interaction. It's totally addictive making dresses for people when you can just see the confidence and the way they just change when you put this dress on that you've created. I mean, that's what I do it for. You know, that's what I live for. So that's what I design for. So to not do that bit would be like, you know, doing the cake and then not having the icing.
And I think it's really nice that you're a real live person. You know, for them to be able to meet you, and it's not just I've got a Sassi Holford dress, it's Sassi Holford made my dress, and that's a very, very different experience. It adds a story to it. It adds much more life to the dress, which is really key.
I think it makes it more real. And I say, my head seamstress has been with me 29 years. They all want to know. They all want to see the pictures, and the pictures come back. They follow it on Instagram, but in the old days, you know, they used to get the pictures and they're all on the wall. You know, they're all invested.
Yes, yeah, and they don't mind you taking all the credit and your name being on that label.
I tell people that, you know, I'm there because I've got a great team.
Superb. Well, Sassi, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us today. It's been absolutely superb, and I'm sure if anyone has got any questions for Sassi, do just pop them in the chat. I know she spends a lot of time very, very busy doing an awful lot. She is slightly laid up at the moment with a minor injury, so or a fairly major injury, so perhaps a little bit more time.
Down, but it's like that. I have warned Ellie that I will be hobbling on Saturday and on crutches. So there we go. Nothing holds me down. So I'm going to be there.
Absolutely, yeah. Good reason to be on social media even more for a little bit. Good luck with the designer day on Saturday. I'm sure you and Ellie will have a great day, and for all of the other designer days you've got coming up. But for now, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure, Alison. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.